Welcome to a new video. I'm just doing a little drawing in my sketchbook. Really considered doing something with paint, but I just was not gonna have the time. So I actually tried recording this one time before, just before this one, and I got super mad. I don't know why, but it just wasn't coming together. And then in hindsight, it was just, I don't know, it wasn't that bad. It really wasn't that bad, but I was just feeling weird about it. I don't know if I just hadn't drawn enough that day or what was going on, but I, for some reason, decided to just start on a completely different page. This is a sketchbook I've had for major years. I'm trying to get through the other side of the paper because I finished one side and I'm doing the other. So you're gonna hear some background noise and things like that because it was New Year's Eve, so my mom was doing tons of stuff to get ready. She had tons of dinner stuff to do and whatnot. So you're gonna hear some dishes, and my little brother was exercising, so you'll probably hear the machine and all that fun stuff. And I got a new mic. So hopefully things are a little bit clearer now. Because usually you cannot hear me, and I have to sound boost it already. And if I go too crazy, any sort of bangs and clangs are like super over the top. But yeah, enough about that, I guess. So on this, I guess I wasn't overdoing tons of masks and things like that. So I decided I was going to do this like big wooden man who had been cut and was hurt. So of course I had to go for horns and things like that. Kind of a staple for me. It's definitely been showing up in my drawing since I was still drawing on doodling, I guess, on lined paper, just in a notebook, which I did for many, many years. Now it's mostly just regular cartridge paper. I did speed up, obviously, some of this, because it did take quite some time. I don't know how holding my pinky like that did not hurt my hand. I think I said in my Inktober sketchbook tour that I'm kind of a sucker for these humanoid plants kind of taking over things. So this shouldn't come as a surprise for most people, the subject of this scribble. And then with this paper, I have to be really careful because obviously, as I said, I have drawings on the other side. I cannot use anything that bleeds through. So tons of my blacks and things like that I use, I cannot use on this paper. So I couldn't paint it or color it. I kind of regretted doing this video on this paper instead of maybe one of my bigger ones that does better with marker or paint or, you know, something. So I ended up using my Tombow markers. I have a huge set that I got years ago, and I just kind of use them here and there in sketchbooks. And kind of bypassed my usual highlighters, because I've got quite a few of those too. So yeah, here's some sped up bits. I do a lot of cuts in this, just to fit it because a lot of it seems redundant. Yeah, drawing lots of plants, many leaves. I kind of drew some things to be blossoms, and then by the end I didn't have much time before we did our New Year's Eve dinner, which is kind of big for us, so I pretty much decided that everything was just gonna be a leaf. I usually do my sketches in these Occasionally I use a regular pencil or whatever, as long as it has a decent eraser on it, but I use these coal erase pencils a lot, like I think a lot of people do. They're way easier to erase, and you can see lines over the top of them just so much easier than the gray of a pencil. I switch my grip because I get hand cramping and stuff like that. Here I am kind of deciding where my darks are going to be. Just inking with a micron. I think it's a 0.5. I usually just use a 0.1 or smaller, but I have so many left over from sets and things like that, from different Inktobers and just some like times when I was using a lot of ink. So I just use these bigger-ish ones in my sketchbooks so they don't get left behind to dry out. I don't like wasting things. I'm pretty thrilled because for Christmas I ended up getting some paint sets. So I got some gouache, some mishap with getting things for my mom kind of got me a little acrylic paint set, so that's pretty cool. I tried them a little bit, and the gouache went okay, but I have kind of used it off and on before. The acrylic didn't go as well, but I mean, that's kind of to be expected. So hopefully we'll be able to work a little bit with that. Sorry, my voice is going to get a little weird because I don't talk this long, generally. Especially not at this volume. Yeah, I had fun doing this one. I pretty much told myself to forget about the time that it was taking. I knew right after this I was going to be completely cleaning off all the SD cards. I don't have that many, but I have like a couple. And I was like, I'm going to clean those off, and so it doesn't matter. I can record more if I don't have enough time or enough battery, and it's fine. I just wanted to let go or at least attempt to let go, and just draw in my sketchbook, which is something I do kind of a lot at night. I kind of sit on my bed, flip on a TV show, sit with my sister, and I do whatever I want in my sketchbook. Sometimes it's just silly portraits with a general expression, something angry, something, I don't know, sad. Rarely somebody smiling for some reason. Creatures have been big. I do enjoy drawing creatures. I do end up just drawing so much slower on camera. It drives me kind of crazy. I would usually do something like this in, I'm not going to say half the time, but definitely faster than I manage it when I'm recording. I kind of wondered if anybody else had this issue. And maybe if not recording, if you ever, I don't know, sketch around people or sketch in public. I do draw at zoos, in aquariums, and if we go out to eat, which is not often, very rural here, so if we go out, it's a whole thing. Like hours of driving. But I do like to draw in restaurants. Kind of liked how this branch that I'm drawing on right here looked. There was just something familiar about it. Something I think is in my memory that I saw, like a picture. that somebody else had done, a painting maybe. And it really reminded me of that. I don't think it was as good, but I liked the idea and some of the shapes. His hand too, I think his hand wasn't too bad. Really short pinky for some reason, but I could make peace with that. For some reason I was so nervous to do this part of the arm. And it's usually my favorite. I love drawing the forearm. It's got this really nice curve, especially with the muscles and the bone just together. Oh, so pretty. I love drawing the thumb, but I did mess this one up. I put a crazy dip. I think I tried to fix it later by adding more black. I had to put moss on his shoulder. I love to do that. There were definitely parts of this that I really enjoyed being in black and white, and they made me kind of wish I'd left it at that instead of adding the colored marker. That could just be I kind of have a thing with like black and white sketches and comic art, and I really like even just like tones, just gray tones and stuff. I think I've mentioned this loads of times, but definitely prefer it over adding color most of the time. Which is kind of funny because I do enjoy a lot of people's colored art. I've just definitely gravitated towards black and white for a massive part of my life, which might be because I started out drawing just with pencil, just number 2 pencils. That's kind of what we had. And drawing on notebook paper and copy paper and things like that. So I think I just got used to gray. And eventually ended up switching to ballpoint pens. Not completely, obviously, but doing a lot more with ballpoint pens. I wanted to add like little cracks and holes and things in the face. So that's what I'm kind of trying to do right there, is simulate that. Yeah, close enough. Always got to get a little bit of hatching in there. Can't help myself. Very impressed with how this mic was picking up the sound of paper and pen. I actually think it sounds, I don't know, better than it even sounded in real life. But there were a few parts where the sleeve of my, what is it, a sweater? Were actually, I don't know, they sounded kind of obnoxious. It was really loud. But I was impressed. Usually with my other microphone, you can hear everything in the background, especially when I'm at home. And you can absolutely hear some things, but it's not as crazy as usual. Texturing all those branches. I'm at home even while recording this, so you might still hear things in the background. I've been trying to think about tons more video ideas. I mostly enjoy just sketching in videos or posting time lapses or whatever of things that I've already done and not necessarily intended to make a video about, so there is that. But I do enjoy making videos. I'm not the greatest at editing, but I enjoy it. There's that Tombow marker, my black one. It's really good for shadows, but it did bleed because they are water-based. So as soon as I started putting other ones in, which wasn't a super big deal because it just makes it pull like a gray from it and you get a little bit more shadows. But you'll see kind of towards the end when I was adding some blue for background stuff like sky and whatnot. Ooh boy, it definitely smudged a little, which isn't a big deal, it's just my sketchbook. I love when people add the big black shapes and things. It just adds a depth that, I don't know, it's very pleasing. Very pleasing to the eye. I can't do it as well as some other people, but oh, very impressed by it. A nub of an eraser over on the side. Big old Tombow bucket. So I do this just kind of real time so you can see how I was layering this first little bit. I do think I would have gotten better depth and whatnot if I had done kind of the same over the whole thing. But I was for sure running out of time. And then I just kind of ended up not talking this entire video. I was concentrating, and I also think that sometimes if I don't talk, it makes it a little bit easier to edit later on. I'm not breaking off a thought or whatever, or having to listen for parts where I'm speaking. Just putting the shadows in. Really liked the color of this marker. On that Don't Lose That Thought paper over there on the side, I was just swatching and then I was putting the color number down in case it was one I needed to pick up later. And then right here, I'm just layering over the top with a similar color that's just a tiny bit lighter. Because they are water-based, it'll smudge a little. But as long as your tones aren't super far away from each other, it doesn't look too bad. I'd really like to kind of do more pages in this book. Maybe video, but also just in general. It's pretty thick, but the pages aren't huge. It's probably that standard 8.5 by 5.5. But I'd love to just get more done in it and finish it up. I've got plenty of sketchbooks that I could dive into and see what works on the paper and what doesn't. This one's been with me all over the place. All over the place. I picked it up in Montana when I visited my friend and cousin many years ago. And at first I was pretty precious with it. It's a secondhand book to begin with, but I was still precious with it. And yeah, I came to really enjoy it after a while. So I think a part of me is going to be a little sad when it's over. But I'd also like to start something new now, I think. So right here I was just doing the texturing first. I go over with the same colored marker. Because, just to add some texture. It's just nice. So getting the little fingies and whatnot. Tree texture. This did take a while because when I first started, I was being really timid. Like, I don't know how this is gonna look. I think I can get away with it because it's textured, so I can play with the texture of the pens and it's not gonna be a big deal. But I was nervous. I was nervous anyway. I'm like, I don't know. I've done it before, but doing it on a video is just a whole other can of worms. So here I am just going through doing my texture. And then I'll show you basically how I went over the top of it, just following the shapes. I'm sure plenty of people have done this. Yep, there we go. Side of the marker. Some of it's going to look cleaner than other parts. You'll definitely see at the end that I left some white bits. Not the prettiest, but very few people in this world are going to see it that close. Unless you watch my video. In which case, I guess I'm sorry, but also, bro, it's just a sketchbook. I don't really ink everything in here, but the pages will rub together if I use just regular pencil. So if I'm not going to ink it, I will use colored pencils or coal erase or whatever, just to keep it from rubbing really bad and smudging over to the other paper. That's why there's so many things in here that I've gone over with pen, or just drawn straight with pen onto the page, because otherwise it gets really messy, and I learned that early on. I have some super old sketches in here. I think some of them were maybe portraits or something I was trying that are terrible. But the pencil rubbed really bad. Really, really bad. So I was like, oh, that's a no-go. So I'm gonna be using ink in here. And I tried using ink wash, which I actually like the way it looks, but it does bleed. Fine for just sketching on the other side of one I've already done, It just means that going back through, I can't use ink wash because it'll kill whatever is on the other side. Which is kind of sad because there's a couple things I think would have benefited from a little bit of ink wash. That texture is just too good. I just layered the freaking crap out of this with this marker. I could have got another color. I think the one that was closer to this one came dry when I got it. So I just had to work with what I had. Which wasn't too bad. It got the texture across. Was not going to make you sit through watching me do every single individual leaf. You can see every single time I do a cluster of them, I'm leaning back looking at how many leaves I have so I don't miss any. Definitely happened to me before. You look back and all the leaves are not colored. Adding a little bit of red. What I actually originally wanted to do was sap, make sap, but wasn't gonna work. Was not gonna work. Not for the moment. So I cheated. Now it's just blood. And I almost forgot to do the one on his chest. It's the whole reason his hand is there. Here's doing the sky. Do you see it smudging? It's just pulling the color. When I realized it was doing it, I was like, oh well. Just add some character. It's fine. Sorry, I bumped that. Here I am just adding some leaves in the background with a darker blue. It's almost finished. I was rushing. I could hear everyone kind of going into the kitchen for dinner. I'm gonna be late. I'll be the one that's late. So there it is. This is the finished picture. Thank you so much for watching this entire video. I do really appreciate it. You have a good day or night. And bye.